everyone! Thank you so much for joining me. Today I want to share with you my home birth story. I'm really excited to share this with you. I've been getting a lot of different comments and requests on making this video, and so I've finally had the time to do so. So yeah, basically my son was due on June 23rd, 2016, and he ended up being born on June 27th. And so the actual story starts a few days before he was born, so that would be Saturday, June 25th. On that day, me and my husband were just kind of outside, and we were pulling weeds and things like that. And around this time I was super eager, and I was like going through so much difficulty being patient, waiting for the baby to come. So whenever we did things such as pulling weeds, I would try to squat and do different types of things like that just to see if anything might get started. And so we were outside pulling weeds for quite a few hours, and we came inside, and then a few hours after that I started feeling some type of tightness in my abdomen area. And so I kind of told myself, like, wait, this could be gas, because if you've ever been pregnant before, you know that there's some insane gas issues that come along with pregnancy. So I was just telling myself, like, don't get too excited, it could just be like gas or something like that. But it kind of still was happening. It was happening about every like 25 minutes or so. So I was like, you know what, let me just mention something to my husband. So I was like, don't get excited, and he had like this huge smile on his face, and I told him, well, like, don't get excited, really, I don't know, it could just be gas, but I am feeling some type of tightness every like 25 minutes. And I would have probably just told myself it was nothing for sure if it wasn't coming sort of like regularly like that. But I just mentioned it to him, and he was like talking about how cool it would be if the baby did come and things like that. And so we went along with our day, and it was continuing to happen where I was feeling these feelings in my abdomen. And so later that night I sent a message to my midwife, and I was like, well, you know, I'm feeling this feeling, could that be signs of early labor? And she was like, yes, it could possibly be, but you need to get as much rest as you possibly can, so just get rest, basically. So I did as she said, and I got some sleep, woke up in the morning, and I was getting the same type of feeling every 15 minutes or so at that point. And so my husband was supposed to go to work that day, which was Sunday, June 26th, and he was like, you know what, I'm just going to take off of work today. He knew that I wanted to try to do some walking and things like that just to see if things would progress. And so he took off of work, and we did go for about like a mile or so of a walk. And it was raining, so it was kind of fun to go for a walk in the rain like that. So we walked for a while, came back home, and we needed to run some errands. We were actually planning to have a water birth, but I'll tell you more about that later. So we went to run some errands to get things for the water birth, such as a hose and things like that. So we went to a few different stores looking for the items that we needed, and we walked around during that time too. And at that point, things were getting a little bit uncomfortable. I was getting quite tired from walking around so much and stuff like that, being as heavy as I was. And so we came back home, and I took a nap. My husband was working on getting the pool blown up and things like that. And so basically just rested into Sunday evening, and we were having troubles with the pool. The pool that we had actually ended up having a hole in it, and we actually ended up popping another hole in it, so that wasn't gonna work. So my husband was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the store and try to find another one. And so while he was at the store, I was just resting, trying to take a nap and things like that. And then he came back home, and we were still having troubles with blowing up the pool that he bought. And so I decided to just give my dad a call and see if there was anything that he could do to help us. And so I was just kind of like explaining to him, like, we're having this trouble, blah blah blah. And then I decided, like, you know what, let me just tell my dad what's going on. So I explained to him, like, you know what, we might be expecting a little buddy pretty soon. And so he was excited, but he was very calm about it, and he was like, okay, just let us know how things go and stuff like that. But we kind of decided to keep it on the down low from my mom, just because I knew that she would want to give me space to go through what I needed to go through, but at the same time I knew that she would be at home, most likely being concerned about my situation. So I didn't tell my mom. And so that was Saturday or Sunday evening. And then later on, as things kept going on, um, I was still having the feelings every about 15 minutes or so, I want to say. And then as it went into the evening, I was like, okay, this is obviously labor starting, Um, but actually, I just want to mention something. I am going to be using the term surges instead of contractions when I talk about the feelings that I was having, just so you understand what I'm saying. But anyways, at this point I was thinking like, okay, these are obviously the surges coming along, and so I kind of wanted to see if I could speed things up a bit. So I sent a message to my midwife and I was asking her, like, is there anything I can do? Like, I've been going through like just breathing through them all day today. And at that point, I think it was about like 9 o'clock at night maybe. And and at that point actually I was having the surges every like 7 minutes or so. So I sent her a message to see if there's anything I could do to get things to progress, and she called me and she was like, well, what are you hoping to do, or what are you hoping to get from that? And I was basically just tired of being patient, and so I just wanted to like get things going so I could see my baby already. But I did not know that there was still quite a bit of time ahead of me to go through things. So she just told me, you know what, I think that you need to take a good rest. I think that you need to take it easy, because when things do get going really intensely, you need to be well rested. So I was like, okay, and she could tell from my voice that I was like struggling with hearing what I didn't want to hear from her. And so she's like, are you feeling emotional? And I told her like, yeah, I am feeling emotional, because like I just would like for the baby to be here. I was basically being pretty impatient. And so she told me, like, you know what, that's okay, but you do really need some rest. Just try to take it easy. Go try to watch a movie or something to get your mind off of it. So my husband and I went and laid down to watch a movie, and before we started the movie, I think that's when I called my mom. So at this point it was probably around like 10, maybe a little bit before 10 p.m. And so I called her because I knew that, like, I avoided talking to her all day long, and so I knew that she was probably suspecting something. And I also felt bad because I didn't want her to feel like I was ignoring her, or I wasn't like trying to contact her all day. And so I called her and she was like, huh, it kind of sounds like you're in labor. And I was like, yeah, kind of like things have been going on. And I explained to her what had been happening throughout that day and the night before. And so I told her I'm just gonna rest, and I told her like I'll let you know what happens. And so we were watching the movie, and I ended up falling asleep, and I think I woke up around, I want to say like 2 in the morning. Yeah, I think I woke up around like 2 in the morning, and at that point the surges were like 7, 6, 5 minutes apart. Like, it was a mix of those, and they were becoming more intense to where I was having a little bit of difficulty like sleeping through them. I wanted to make sure that my husband was getting enough rest, so I didn't wake him up quite yet. I was just using the exercise ball at the end, or the edge of our bed, and I would sort of like rock through the surges and try to kind of like catch a sleep by laying down on the edge of our bed whenever I could. And so a little while after that, things were getting a bit more intense, and I was actually dealing with lower back pain whenever I had the surges. So my husband ended up waking up, and he was helping me by applying pressure on my lower back throughout each of the surges. And around 4 in the morning, I think I decided to switch and go to the bathtub and sit in some hot water for a bit there. And I think that that's when things sort of seemed to pick up a little bit more, where it was a bit more intense. And I think my husband was feeling a little bit uncomfortable with not having the midwife there quite yet. So he gave her a call and told her that basically updated her with what was going on, and she told us beforehand to call her if the surges were about 5 minutes apart or so. And so he just updated her, and she told him, well, I think that like she has some more time to go, but I'm going to come. So she ended up coming, and let's see. Okay, so around that time too, my husband was thinking like, you know what, I'm gonna get the water into the pool just so that it's ready. But he was having a hard time with the hose to connect from our sink to the pool. So he was like, you know what, I'm gonna call your dad. My mom and dad lived just down the street from us, and so he decided to call my dad to ask him for some help. And I think that was kind of nice for my mom and dad anyways, because they were wondering what was going on like throughout the night. But we were just dealing with things, so we weren't really updating or using our phones very much at all. And so he called my dad, and my dad came over to help out with the hose so that my husband could be helping me through the surges. And that was around 5 in the morning. And so as my dad was working on the pool, the midwife came, and she saw the size of our pool and she was like, you know what, I think that this pool is pretty big, and your hot water heater will not be able to fill it with hot water. And so she kind of wanted us to have the idea that we might not be having a water birth. And so it was nice that she told us that when she did, because I could kind of like adjust it in my mind that that's not what was going to end up happening. And so we told my dad, like, just don't worry about filling it up and stuff like that. And he kind of just told me like, okay, well, when things when you want us to come, just call us and we'll be here. And so he went back home, and I think then the midwife sort of felt like I was at a point where maybe I needed some more space, and I just needed to be able to go through things and allow for it to progress. So she decided to leave at that point, and so that's about like 6 in the morning, I think, because everything else was fine. It was just that I needed to progress, and I needed to go through what I needed to go through in order to have this baby. And so our midwife ended up going home, and I think then we just kept going through things throughout the day. It just kept on getting a little bit more intense. It was weird because it seemed like when our midwife did come, it seemed like things sort of slowed down a little bit, but when she went home, it sort of ended up slowly picking back up. And so around 12 o'clock, I'm sure my mom was like at home itching the whole entire time. Poor thing. But she ended up calling my husband, I think around 12 o'clock, and she was like, can I bring Sabrina a smoothie? Because I think she needs that, like for energy and stuff like that. And so she ended up coming over with my brother who is 17. And so they came together, and they brought me a smoothie, which helped out a ton. Actually, it was nice and refreshing. And let's see, then my husband was basically with me throughout the whole day, and so my brother was like, you know what, go take a break. He actually needed to pray, so he went to go do his prayer, and then my brother took over with applying pressure on my lower back whenever I had the surges, and my mom was holding my hand. It was so amazing because my mom and my brother came just around the time when things were like getting super intense, like things were getting pretty heated, and I needed extra help. Like I felt so bad. I was putting a lot of like my husband had to do a lot of care basically. And so my mom was holding my hand, my brother was applying pressure, and right around then, I think around 1 o'clock, our midwife came back, and she basically like checked everything, like checked the baby's heart rate and everything like that, and everything was fine. One thing I'd like to mention that I really did like, I guess, from the whole situation was that I was never checked to see what, like how open I was or how much I was progressing through the birth, or to the birth, through the labor. I actually preferred it that way, and I really appreciated that our midwife also preferred to not like put me in the situation of having to check me. And so things just kind of like naturally went. And so around 1 o'clock, our midwife was there, and then let's see, my mom ended up staying from then on, and I think my brother went back home, and um, so let's see. So yeah, basically things just kept on going, and around, I think it was around like 3 o'clock, my mom called my dad to come back home from work so that he could also be at least in the area at the same time. But she told him to stop at our natural food store and pick up the essential oil called frankincense, and that basically saved me. Like, I don't know what I would have done without being able to smell that oil. Until right now, I don't understand why it was such a relief for me. It also helped my mom a lot, and I believe that it also helped my aunt a lot when she was going through labor. But that oil was like so amazing. So basically around that time, my dad came back, and I think it must have been around like 4 o'clock by the time he came. And at that point, I was most comfortable in the bathtub, and it was a really weird situation, but basically my husband was pouring hot water onto my belly, and that's what I felt like I needed. I felt like I needed hot water on my belly, but then my like upper body, my face and my chest was just like overheating. So I had my husband pouring hot water on my belly, and my mom holding my hand, and she was putting ice and like cold cloths all over my face to keep me cool. And so I would just try my hardest to use hypnobirthing techniques and breathe through each of the surges. Also, my family and my midwife were reminding me to like try to relax my muscles and to try to make low sounds and things like that to try to help things progress positively. And so my dad came around that time. My dad was so for some people this might be weird that my dad was there. It was, I guess it was like a little bit weird thinking back to my mentality before I was pregnant, but I really wanted my dad to be there, and it wasn't weird. I was very thankful that he was there, but he was holding me from like behind because I needed support in our bathtub, and I was also like squeezing his hand. I was holding my mom's hand, and she was giving it. It was between her and my dad who were like letting me smell the bottle of frankincense essential oil during each of the surges. And so everybody like was just doing their job basically. And I felt really bad. Like, it was really interesting because through each of the surges I was like I was so conscious, and I was thinking about things that were normal. Like, I was feeling bad that I was squeezing my dad's hand, and I was like squeezing his fingers all scrunched up, and I felt really bad about that, but I couldn't do anything about it. Like, I couldn't adjust myself because I was just going through it, and that's what I needed. I needed to squeeze his hand. I was like pulling on my mom. I was like squeezing her arm just because that's what I needed. I just needed the support or something to squeeze while going through and while breathing through the surges. And so, so yeah, it was interesting that like mentally I was thinking about things that were quite normal. Time was just going by so quickly, and then it just ended up that our midwife checked, but she was continuously checking the baby's heart rate, and she felt as though the baby's heart rate was kind of going a little bit low. So she had asked me to get into a specific position where I would soon need to start pushing. Before that, she was asking me to sort of bear down and see if I could breathe through. And right before that, actually, I switched over and went to sit on the toilet, and my husband was like in front of me, and I was holding on to him to try to help calm myself. And at that point, I was able to sort of feel like something was sort of lowering down. Um, and I ended up actually feeling, and I could feel something, and it was the water that ended up splashing everywhere. And so the water broke then. And so yeah, I tried a few different positions at that point, and she checked the baby's heart rate and seems to kind of be going down. So she was like, you know what, we need to actually start pushing. And I was thinking like, whoa, it's finally it, yay! I was like really excited, but at the same time, like my appearance was just like so tired. I was really, really tired at that point. And so I laid down and had all of my support people around me, which was really, really nice. And my husband actually wanted to catch the baby, and so the midwife had him in the spot of where she needed him to be. And our midwife was just so amazing. Like, she was just on top of everything. She was very calm, and she's just a comforting person in general. Like, by the time we're done with all of our postpartum appointments with her and stuff like that, I know I'm just gonna like cry if I don't get to see her anymore, because I just love her so much. But anyways, I pushed a few times, and basically I'm going to be pretty real right here. There is quite a burning sensation when you are trying to push the baby out. I had my dad behind me, my mom was I think on my side, and then I had the midwife. Our midwife also had an assistant there too, so she was kind of like grabbing things and stuff like that. And then my husband was there near the midwife as well. And my dad had a board that our midwife brought in the room for us, because I originally thought we were not going to have the baby in our bedroom. We were planning on having the baby in like our living room area, because that's where the pool would fit. So I had all of my things set up out there. I had so many candles. I had like just a ton of like comforting things that I wanted out there, including my birthing board. And that was basically just a board that I made of different quotes and different visual aids and stuff like that to help me throughout the birth. And so our midwife brought that in and set it near my dad. And my dad was reading off of that. So he was like reading the different quotes and things. And that was really comforting for me. It was comforting that my dad was reading it for me. And it was also comforting just to hear the things that, that I really enjoyed hearing, or things that were inspiring for me. And so so yeah, they were like, you know what, you really got to focus on pushing the baby out, because the heart rate is slowly, or is becoming a little bit slower, and we just don't want to have any problems with that. And so I don't know, right now I'm not able to really remember how many pushes that it took. I know it did take a few. And so basically pushed a few times and felt the baby's head came out, and I was just like waiting. As I was like pushing, I was just waiting to hear them say that the baby's head was out. And so, and same with like when I was in the bathtub, like I just kept waiting for somebody to say, oh, I can see the head. Like I just really wanted things to be able to like happen. I was pretty tired. Like I wanted to sleep basically. And like between each of the pushes, my mom was trying to keep me alert, because I was just really, really tired. And so finally the baby's head came out, and at that point I thought like the baby was out. Like I was just thinking like, whoa, I'm done. But no, the baby's shoulders then came out after another push, and then it took another push, and then the baby's feet came out. And it's really interesting actually how all of that felt. Like I never really I mean, like everybody has their own way to explain it, and everybody has gone through different feelings of what it feels like when your baby is coming out of you. But something that I remembered when when he came out, which is really weird, is that like I just remembered how a fish feels. Like it just like flops like out of your hands. That's kind of how it felt for me actually. I don't know if that's too much information, but basically that's what it felt like. And I was just so happy to have that relief. And so they put the baby right on my stomach because the umbilical cord was just a bit short at the moment, so I wasn't able to actually like lift him way up. But they put him on my stomach, and he like lifted his head up right away, and I was looking down at him, and he had his eyes open, and we looked at each other, and that was just like the sweetest thing. Like that's such a great memory that I have, and every time I think about it, I get really emotional because it was just like the sweetest moment. Like he was just put on my tummy, and he lifted up his head and looked at me in the eyes, and it was just really, really sweet. And so he didn't cry and like scream and things like that, although he was fine and breathing. He was just pretty calm about stuff, but he did have quite a bit of mucus in his mouth, poor guy, so we had to like continuously like wipe it off for him and stuff like that. But a few minutes later, then our midwife asked me to push again, and I just pushed a little gently, and then the placenta came out, and everything was healthy and fine with that. And it was just such a nice experience that my husband was there, and that he was able to help catch the baby, and that my parents were there for me. We also planned for my sister to have been there, but unfortunately she was not able to make it. And so hopefully next time she'll be able to make it. I know she was a little bit bummed out, but she was able to be the first person to meet the baby out of our family. So that was special for her too. So after things calmed down just a little bit, my husband was able to hold the baby, and my so after things calmed down just a little bit, my husband kept the baby, and our midwife helped me with getting up and washing up and things like that. I had a brand new pair of pajamas, and so I was able to get cozy in that. My parents went and got us some things to eat, and so we were able to kind of, like regain our energy and things like that. And the baby had all of his like measurements and things like that taken, which was really nice, and we worked on nursing, and our midwife stayed for a little while afterwards and helped us clean up and things like that, which was really, really nice of her. She took such great care of us, and basically we just were able to kind of try to settle into what was so new for us. And I mean, it still is really new for us. We're only 4 weeks postpartum, but it's been great, and I'm so blessed. Like, the whole situation was something that was such a great blessing. Um, I'm so thankful that I was able to have a home birth. It was definitely something that I really, 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 really wanted for myself. And so I'm so thankful that everything went well and smooth, and we were healthy, and everything basically went very, very well. Um, but yeah, that's basically our story. It was And I think that choosing to do a home birth was something that was very right for us and for our family. Throughout the time of going through all of the surges and throughout the different things like that, I never came to a point in my mind where I was thinking like, oh, I wish I was at a hospital, or I don't know why I chose to do this, or anything like that. I never once had that type of thought in my head. I never had the thought that like, oh, I wish I was at the hospital so I could be medicated, or anything like that. I tried my best to stay focused, and thankfully I was able to do so, and I'm really, really grateful for that. One thought that I did have in my mind was that like throughout the different points of things, like whenever things were switching, or whenever things were happening, or when things sort of slowed down and things like that, I was thinking like, oh man, if I was at a hospital, I had an idea of what type of interventions would have been offered to me or would have been suggested, and I was very thankful that I was at my home and I was in the comfort of my own home, basically. And so I feel like choosing to do a home birth was something that was great for our family, and it turned out to go very well, which I'm so grateful to God. I'm very, very grateful that we were all healthy and everything went very well, and now we have our little guy, and we're really excited to be parents. I'm really excited to do more videos on parenting and motherhood and how my postpartum days are going and different things like that. It just takes a little bit more time and energy to do videos now that I have a little one. Um, so please do keep an eye out for some more videos. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please remember to click like on this video, and hopefully I will see you again very soon. Take good care. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.